Hello, this is Bill Bullard with RCAP USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Well, one problem with our government is that it's difficult to figure out who is accountable for the government's actions. For example, when Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue violated the law by issuing an edict back in 2019 to mandate the exclusive use of radio frequency identification or RFID ear tags, his agency simply withdrew the edict when the violation was uncovered. Now, this raises the question of who is the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA, accountable to, if not to America's farmers and ranchers? Well, the answer is found in our U.S. Constitution that provides a clear division of powers held by our three branches of government. The power to make law, or to legislate, is reserved for the legislative branch, which is Congress, and Congress is accountable to the people who elected them. Now, the power to carry out the laws passed by Congress is reserved to the executive branch, and the president does this through his various federal agencies, like the USDA. And the power to interpret laws whenever a conflict arises is reserved to the judicial branch of government. Now, what our Constitution does not contemplate is for one of the three branches to delegate its constitutional powers to another branch. Unfortunately, however, this has been going on for years, and it happens this way. Rather than pass a law that sets forth what can be done and what cannot be done, Congress instead passes a law to empower a federal agency like the USDA to decide what can or cannot be done. And when this happens, Congress remains unaccountable for any negative outcome simply by pointing their finger at whichever federal agency they had inappropriately empowered and stating it is the federal agency's fault, not theirs. But then the federal agency points its finger right back at Congress and states, well, if Congress had meant for something to be done or not done, it should have said so, but it didn't. And this is how powerful federal bureaucracies have emerged in our government, and they are unaccountable to either Congress or to the people. The Constitution does not allow federal agencies to legislate, but that's exactly what happens when Congress abdicates its constitutional responsibilities by transferring those responsibilities over to a federal bureaucracy. And there's no one to blame and no accountability to the people. So now let's bring this closer to the cattle industry. Every cattle association now acknowledges that the cattle market is dysfunctional because too few cattle are sold in the industry's price discovery market. Most of these groups know that the problem won't fix itself, and they lack the means to fix it on their own. So many cattle producers went to Congress and asked Congress to pass a law stating what can and cannot be done in the U.S. cattle market. And so far, there are 12 senators from both parties who introduced a law to address the problem. Led by Senators Grassley and Tester, their proposed law, known as the 5014 bill, states that packers must purchase at least 50% of their cattle needs from the price discovery market. Now, this proposed law clearly tells packers what they can and cannot do. And once passed, this law can be enforced by either a federal agency or by cattle producers using the court system if the packers do not comply. Now, this is a clear example of Congress performing its constitutional duty while maintaining full accountability to those who elected them. But another proposal to address the very same problem has now been introduced, and it's very different from the 5014 bill. This proposal by Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer is an example of Congress abdicating its constitutional power to legislate by delegating that legislative power to the USDA. The Fischer bill does not tell the packers what they can or cannot do. Instead, it empowers the USDA to make that decision for Congress by directing the agency to engage in the lawmaking process. The bill states that the Secretary of Agriculture shall establish minimum purchase volumes in the price discovery market. It provides no minimal thresholds. Now, this is bad law, and it greatly contributes to the chronic problem associated with giving federal bureaucracies more and more power, contrary to our Constitution's division of power. There is no accountability associated with this transfer of power to USDA. USDA is not accountable to Congress, only to the president. And if whatever decision USDA may make is not good enough to restore the integrity of the price discovery market, the only recourse cattle producers have is to go to the president, who most often is too busy to address such concerns. So let's join together to support our U.S. Constitution by rejecting the effort to further and inappropriately empower the USDA to pass laws that are vitally important to our U.S. cattle industry. Now, this is why RCAP USA fully supports the Grassley Tester 5014 bill, and we urge you to call your congressional members to help us get this needed bill passed. With that, we hope you have a productive week, and if you'd like to learn more about what RCAP USA is doing to improve rural America, go to our website at www.r-calfusa.com. Thank you and goodbye.